it's Linda Schulte, and we're back with Dana from St. Lawrence Title. And got a few more questions to wrap it up here. And one of the things I wanted to ask about is a survey. I have some, especially my cash buyers, they say, oh, I don't need a survey. I don't want to have to pay that money for it. Is a survey required for a cash buyer?
So it's not required, but it's recommended. It goes kind of in the same spirit of learning everything you can about the property and the history of the property and the use of the property. So a lot of agents will say, oh, it's a cash deal, you don't need a survey. So I try to get people to reframe that and say, it's a cash deal, it's not required because a lender will require it, which is a different subject. But that is when it's absolutely required is when there's a lender, because it's the lender who's requiring it. So your cash buyer, though, just like looking at the title search and making sure of the history of that property, making sure of the big things as well as some of the small things, the survey serves the same purpose. So it's not required, but it's recommended.
Gotcha. Yeah, we recently had somebody who's listed their house and they bought it for cash like about 2 years ago. And the guy spent a lot of money redoing the driveway. And his driveway went across somebody else's property because he never did a survey. Because I was just doing what the other people had done. And then we also found out there was parts and pieces that were on his property from neighboring. So it's like he never saw it before. So it's important. You paying cash or doing a loan, please get a survey before you buy the property. So is it true or false? True or false, Dana? If somebody has a will and they pass away, they don't need to go through probate to sell the home.
So false. It's a myth that is out there that just because someone has a will, then they don't need probate. Now, we're not attorneys, so we can't give legal advice, but I can say enough to say just pay attention if you're taking a listing, for example, as a real estate agent, and you know that they've had a death in the family, you need to do some research, and they will need to speak with attorneys about that. And don't be surprised if, even with a will, they do need probate. I try to simplify it, and it kind of makes sense if you think about it this way. If someone passes away and a family member hands you a will, do you know that that's a trustworthy document? Do you know the history of that document? So it needs to be verified, it needs to be reviewed, it needs to be validated. So that's why you can kind of think about busting that myth that just because there's a will, you don't need probate.
And you touched on something, as neither one of us have our licensed attorneys here in the state of Florida, so we can give bits and pieces. We can't go into details. We both know enough to say, better call an attorney. So speak of better call an attorney, what about a power of attorney? We call it a POA, a power of attorney. Is a power of attorney, is that just because I have one, does that mean I can convey a property or sell it to somebody else?
So one of our typical answers is it depends. There is language that has to be included in the power of attorney document, and it's the best thing to do is to submit it to your title agent for as early as possible. As soon as you have someone in the transaction who says, hey, I'm going to be using a power of attorney, get it to us as soon as possible. We will review it for some key information that we know, and if there's anything that's in question, we will submit it to our underwriters who also have attorney counsel who can review it. So we make sure up front that it's correct. Because if you do need to get it corrected, you don't want to delay your closing.
That is correct. So if something comes up, and whether it's a will, probate, having a POA, a guardianship, sometimes those can be very sensitive issues with family members, friends, and they want to be very forceful about, no, this is the way it's got to be. Especially as the real estate agent, you got to take the step back and say, let's take a view of this. Because you have to see the forest through the trees. So if you have any questions regarding whether or not somebody's married, should they be signing the contract to sell, signing for it to convey, power of attorney, ladybird deeds, things like that. Those are some questions that we could, well, one, some of it we can't talk about because we're not attorneys. But if you have any questions like that, reach out to me, reach out to Dana, and if we can't answer the question, we can always put you in touch with the right people.
For sure.
And so the fun part of every transaction is conveying the property. We get it closed, we get it funded. One of the big things that sellers ask me is, how does everybody get paid, including the buyers? I'm like, how do you get paid for helping me as a buyer's agent? So once it's funded, how does everything get paid, from the mortgages to any liens to fees that are due, and including the real estate agents? How does that work?
So remember in the beginning we said there's a long list of what a title agent does, and that's part of our list. So within, let's say, the 24 hours following the closing, we will get all of those items paid in various forms. So if you have a payoff for a loan, we're going to be wiring those funds. We are cutting checks for a lot of parties. We are distributing all the funds that have been held in escrow as a part of that closing process. We like to do it on the day of closing, but it doesn't always happen based on timing. You know, we have to wait for money to come in from other parties as well. Remember, all these trains are coming into the station at the same time. So we like to tell people to leave a little bit of a cushion, you know, into the next day. We are doing our best to do it same day, but it may fall over into the next day because it's just not feasible. There are cutoff times for wires and things like that happen. So we're going to pay off anything that's, if there was a lien or a judgment and all those items, because we're giving you that list at closing, and then we're going to cut all those payments once everything is signed.
All right, great. And then we can really celebrate that.
Yes, it's our favorite part.
I know, yay. Well, I'm going to celebrate with you now. So thank you for being here and answering all these questions.
Having me.
I have a million more, so we're going to have to do this again.
I would love to.
Maybe we'll break it down in different segments. So again, thank you, Dana from St. Lawrence Title. And again, I am Linda Schulte, broker owner of Schulte Realty here in the Central Florida area. And so if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, or just have a question about real estate, give me a shout. And please don't forget, if you want to do any kind of real estate in the state of Florida, you can still reach out to me because, as we say, at Schulte Realty, we cover Florida like the sunshine. Talk to you the next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.